The big blue ship came down from the sky on a Tuesday morning. It did not crash or make a mess. It landed smoothly in the middle of the United Nations Plaza in New York. People stopped and stared. Some ran. Some took pictures with their phones. The world watched as the ship's door opened with a soft hiss. The being that stepped out was tall and blue-skinned. It had 4 arms and a friendly face. It smiled, showing teeth that looked almost human. "I am Trell," it said in perfect English. "I come from the Galactic Alliance. We have been watching your planet for some time. We think it is time we talked." Within hours, leaders from all over Earth gathered. The blue alien, Trell, stood before them calmly. "The galaxy is big, but not empty," Trell explained. 37 species form our alliance. We work together. We trade. We share. We protect each other. President Garcia of the United Nations asked, "Why come to us now?" Trell's face turned serious. "Because of the Void Dominion. They are not friendly. They take worlds. They use people. They are coming this way." The room grew quiet. "We offer Earth protection," Trell continued. "Join our alliance. We will keep you safe." Defense Minister Wong stood up. "What about our own ships? Our own defense?" Trell looked confused. "You misunderstand. Your species is young. Your technology is basic. The Alliance has mighty fleets, 10,000 years of space travel. You need not worry about fighting." Captain James Miller sat in the back of the room. He had led ships in Earth's navies for 20 years. He did not like how Trell spoke about humans, like they were children who needed watching. "Can we see your ships?" Miller asked suddenly. "Can we learn how they work?" Trell seemed surprised by the question. "I suppose, for educational purposes only. Young species don't usually ask about such things." After the meeting, President Garcia pulled Miller aside. "James, I want you to be our military contact with these aliens. Something in my gut says we should know more about how they fight these void people." Miller nodded. "I was thinking the same thing, Madam President." 1 week later, Miller stood in a room with 5 other humans. They had been chosen for their skills. Dr. Ellie Brooks was the best engineer on Earth. Dr. Marcus Reed knew more about physics than anyone. There was also Major Ben Thompson, Lieutenant Anna Dez, and tech specialist Tom Wilson. "Welcome to the Alliance Embassy," said a small green alien named Nix. Unlike Trell, Nix had 2 arms and large eyes that blinked sideways. "I will be your guide to Alliance technology." "When do we see the ships?" Miller asked. Nix blinked rapidly. "Ambassador Trell has approved 1 small training vessel for your education. This way, please." They followed Nix to a hangar. Inside sat a ship the size of a passenger plane. It was silver with blue lights. "This is the Star Whisper," Nix said. "A basic scout ship, the smallest in our fleet." Brooks walked around it, her eyes wide. "This is small to you. What's a big ship like?" "A proper battleship would be about 2 miles long," Nix said proudly. Reed whistled. "That's excessive." "It is necessary," Nix corrected. "Now let me show you the engine room." For the next month, the humans learned everything they could about the Star Whisper. Brooks spent hours looking at the engines. Reed studied the weapons. Miller learned how the Alliance fought in space. One night, Miller called everyone together in their Earth quarters. "Does anyone else notice something strange about Alliance technology?" he asked. Brooks nodded quickly. "It's all so vague, wasteful. They use 10 times the power they need for simple tasks." "Their weapons too," Reed added. "So much energy for so little damage. It's like they never had to worry about running out of resources." Miller leaned forward. "And their battle plans? Always the same. Big ships, straight lines, overwhelming force. No surprise. No clever moves." "So what do we do?" asked Thompson. Miller smiled. "We learn. Then we improve." 3 months later, Nix was watching the humans practice flying the Star Whisper. Miller sat at the controls, while Brooks and Reed worked on the ship's systems. "You should not fly so fast near the moon," Nix warned. "Alliance protocol says." An alarm sounded. A red ship appeared on the radar. "That's our location," West said. He pointed to another light. "And I think that's Earth." Reed's comm crackled. "Captain, receiving response from Fleet Command." "Put it through," Reed ordered. Admiral Green's voice filled their helmets. "Captain Reed, you are to secure the alien vessel and prepare it for towing. The Dauntless is being dispatched to your location to bring it back to Earth for study. Maintain minimum contact with unknown systems." "Understood, sir," Reed replied. "But there's something you should know. The ship appears to be operational. Its systems are active." There was a pause before the Admiral responded. "Is there any indication of weapons capabilities?" Reed looked around at the smooth, curved walls and peaceful blue light. "Negative, sir. It doesn't appear to be a warship." "Then it's of limited tactical value," the Admiral said, his voice flat. "Still, the Science Division will want to study it. Secure it and wait for the Dauntless." The communication ended, and Reed exchanged glances with his team. "Limited tactical value," Miller said incredulously. "They have no idea what's here." West was still working with the hologram. "Captain, I think I've found something. A record or log of some kind." The display showed images of beings unlike any they had seen before. Tall, slender creatures with 4 arms and elongated heads. "The Builders," West whispered. More images appeared. Planets, stars, and finally, what looked like a terrible war. Worlds burning. Fleets of angular ships that somehow reminded Reed of the Drek Empire vessels. What happened to them? Reed wondered aloud. The final image showed the smooth oval ship, the Guardian, floating away from a dying world. "I think they're gone," West said softly. "And they left this ship behind." Unknown to the humans, a small craft washed from the shadow of a distant asteroid. Inside, a Drek scout observed the human discovery with interest. It sent a tight beam transmission to its command ship. "Humans have found Forerunner technology. Appears inactive. Not a threat." The reply came swiftly. "Continue observation. Do not interfere." Back aboard the Guardian, Tauran ships will be in visual range in 5 minutes, Officer Jones reported from the Pioneer, her voice tense over the comm system. Captain Walker turned to Atlas. "Show me these defense systems you mentioned." The hologram nodded and waved a hand. A new display appeared, showing the Phantom's outer hull. Small sections lit up in sequence. "These are automated point defense arrays," Atlas explained. "They can target and neutralize incoming projectiles or small vessels. They require minimal power and can operate independently of main systems." Engineer Mike Foster was already at one of the control stations. "I think I can reroute emergency power to these systems. Dr. Reed, can you help me with these connection sequences?" Dr. Lisa Reed joined him, her eyes wide as she studied the advanced technology. "This circuitry design, it's unlike anything I've seen before." Walker watched his crew work with the future technology. "Atlas, you said this ship was part of something called Operation Timeshift. Who sent you back?" "The Earth Resistance," Atlas replied. By 2342, most of Earth's governments had fallen. The Collective had taken over 80% of human colonies. The Resistance was humanity's last organized fighting force. The hologram's expression turned solemn. They knew they couldn't win the war in their time. So they chose to change history instead. A loud hum filled the bridge as lights brightened around them. "Defense systems online," Foster announced, looking up from his work. 20% power available to shields and point defense weapons. Just in time, Jones's voice came through again. "Tauran scouts changing course. They'd spotted us." Walker turned to Atlas. "Will your weapons harm their ships?" "The Phantom's defensive protocols are set to minimum force," the AI replied. "Against Tauran scout vessels, they will disable rather than destroy." Walker nodded with relief. Starting a war with the Taurans was the last thing he wanted. "Sir," Jones called urgently. "The Taurans are powering weapons. They're treating the Phantom as a threat." Before Walker could respond, the massive ship trembled slightly. "Incoming fire," Atlas reported calmly. "Low-yield missiles. No damage to our shields." On the main screen, they watched as the Phantom's defense systems activated. Bright blue pulses shot from points along the hull, intercepting the Tauran missiles. Then, 3 more precise beams reached out toward the scout ships themselves. "What are those beams doing?" Walker asked. "Electromagnetic pulse, targeted at their weapon and engine systems," Atlas explained. "Non-lethal, temporary disruption only." They watched as the Tauran ships drifted to a stop, their lights flickering. "How long will they be disabled?" Walker asked. "Approximately 30 minutes, sufficient time to complete our power-up sequence." Foster looked up from his station. "Captain, we've got more power available now. I think we can access the ship's data core." "Do it," Walker ordered. "I want to know everything about this ship and the future it came from." As Foster worked, Walker studied the disabled Tauran ships on the screen. "The Taurans will call for reinforcements. We need to move this ship somewhere safe. I suggest we access the main propulsion systems next," Atlas said. "However, there is something else you should see first." The hologram led them through a series of corridors deeper into the ship until they reached a large circular chamber. Inside were rows of cylindrical pods, each about 2 meters long. "Cryogenic preservation units," Atlas explained. "They contain the Phantom's specialist crew." Walker approached one of the pods. Through its frosted glass top, he could make out the shape of a person. "You brought people from the future too." "Not just people," Atlas said. "Enhanced humans, specifically designed to operate this vessel's advanced systems. Their neural implants allow them to interface directly with the ship in ways ordinary humans cannot." Foster examined the control panel on one of the pods. "These life signs." Grant's expression darkened. "The museum piece. How exactly would that help us against the most advanced Drek weapon ever created?" "The ship's database contains information about a similar weapon used thousands of years ago," Reed explained. "The Guardian might have been designed specifically to counter such threats." A moment of silence followed before laughter erupted from several officers. Grant didn't join in, but his expression made his thoughts clear. "Captain Reed," he said, "I appreciate creative thinking, but this is not the time for archaeological theories. We need practical solutions, not ancient history lessons." He turned back to the room at large. "Now, as I was saying." Reed returned to West and Miller, who had also slipped into the meeting. "He didn't even listen," Miller whispered angrily. "Would you?" Reed asked. "An untested theory about an ancient ship against a proven planet killer." West clutched his tablet tighter. "But I found references to defensive systems unlike anything we've conceived. The Guardian wasn't a warship. It was a peacekeeping vessel specifically designed to neutralize weapons of mass destruction." Reed looked between his 2 officers, then made a decision. "Meet me at Docking Bay 12 at midnight. Tell no one." The shipyard was dimly lit during night cycle. Reed, West, and Miller moved quietly through the shadows toward where the Guardian was docked. The security was minimal. No one saw any value in the ancient ship worth guarding. "This is court-martial territory," Miller whispered as they approached. "Only if we're caught," Reed replied. "And only if we're wrong." They slipped aboard the Guardian through the same entrance that had opened for them in the asteroid field. Inside, the ship glowed with its soft blue light, seemingly welcoming them back. West moved immediately to the central console. "I've been working on a more direct interface," he said, connecting his tablet to the holographic display. The symbols appeared, flowing faster now, as if the ship recognized him. "Can you access the defensive systems?" Reed asked. West nodded. "I think so, but there's something odd about how they're described. Not like weapons or shields as we understand them." Miller moved to the engineering section. "I've been thinking about those energy readings. They almost seem like. She stopped, her eyes widening as a panel slid open. "Captain, I think I found something." Reed joined her, staring at what looked like a control chair that hadn't been there during their first visit. "The ship is adapted." Chaos erupted throughout Earth's orbital shipyard. Officers ran to their posts as emergency lights flashed. Outside the viewports, Earth's defense fleet was already moving into formation. Inside the Guardian, Miller sat frozen in the control chair, her eyes unfocused. "Jane." Reed shook her shoulder. "We need to go." Miller blinked and looked at Reed, but her voice sounded strange, as if two people were speaking at once. "There is no time. The weapon approaches." West moved closer. "Jane, are you all right?" "I am both Jane Miller and guide," she replied. "A temporary link has formed between us. It is how the Guardian was designed to be operated." Reed studied her face, looking for signs of distress. "Can you break the connection if you want to?" Miller nodded. "Yes, but right now, we need it." She turned to the holographic display, which now showed the approaching Drek fleet. At its center was the massive Iron Tempest. "Earth's defenses will fail," Miller said, her voice grim. "The weapon they face was designed using principles similar to those that nearly destroyed the Forerunners." "Can this ship help?" Reed asked. "The Guardian was created for exactly this purpose," Miller replied, "to stand between life and extinction." Reed's comm unit buzzed. Admiral Grant's voice came through, tense and rushed. "All ships prepare for emergency deployment. Civilian evacuation is underway. This is not a drill." Reed looked at his two friends, then made his decision. "How do we launch this ship?" Miller placed her hands on the arms of the control chair. "The Guardian is ready. It has been ready for thousands of years." The ship's blue lights pulsed brighter. Throughout the vessel, systems that had been dormant for millennia came to life. "We'll need clearance to leave the dock," West said. Reed shook his head. "In this chaos, no one will notice one more ship heading out." He clicked his comm. "Jones, this is Captain Reed. Meet us at Docking Bay 12 now. Don't tell anyone." 10 minutes later, Pilot Jones rushed aboard, his face pale. "Captain, what's happening?" "The whole fleet is mobilizing. We're taking this ship out," Reed told him. "I need you at the helm." Jones stared around at the alien interior. "Sir, I don't even know how to fly this thing." "Neither do we," Reed admitted. "But Miller has a connection to the ship's eye. It knows what to do." From the control chair, Miller spoke. "Guide will assist with navigation. The pilot need only provide direction." Jones looked uncertain, but moved to a console that lit up as he approached. A simplified control interface appeared. "Captain," West called from another station. "I've accessed the external cameras. You need to see this." On the holographic display, they could see the shipyard in pandemonium. Ships were launching in all directions. Beyond them, the first flashes of battle lit up the darkness of space. Earth's defense fleet was engaging the outer ships of the Drek Armada. "We need to go now," Reed said. "Jones, get us out of here." Jones placed his hands on the controls. The Guardian hummed to life, its engines activating with barely a vibration. Smoothly, the ancient ship slid out of its dock and into space. As they cleared the shipyard, Miller gasped. "The ship is changing." It was true. The dull metal of the Guardian's hull was beginning to glow. The faint patterns they had noticed before were now shining with blue light. The ship's rounded form seemed to shift slightly, becoming more streamlined. "It's adapting," West said in wonder. "Preparing for its purpose." On the display, they could see the battle unfolding. Earth's ships were fighting bravely, but the Drek forces were overwhelming. And still, the Defiant raced through space, moving faster than Alliance engineers would have believed possible. Mike had pushed the rebuilt engines beyond their original specs. The ship vibrated with power. On the bridge, Emma monitored the sensor readings. "Swarm ship is changing course. It's moving to intercept us." Jack smiled grimly. They think we're easy prey. Aren't we? Anna asked quietly. They've never fought humans before, Jack said. Let's show them why that was a mistake. The swarm ship appeared on the main screen. It was smaller than the Defiant but sleek and deadly, with no wasted space. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. They're scanning us, Emma reported, trying to assess our capabilities. Let them look, Jack said. Weapons status. Weapons hot, Captain. The tactical officer reported. Main cannons charge. Missile tubes loaded. The swarm ship suddenly accelerated, closing the distance rapidly. They're powering weapons, Emma warned. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. Pattern Baker 3. The Defiant lurched sideways, its engines firing in ways the Alliance had never intended. The ship's hybrid navigation system, combining alien precision with human unpredictability, executed a series of moves that should have torn the hull apart. The swarm ship fired, energy beams cutting through the space where the Defiant had been a moment before. Return fire, Jack ordered. All main batteries. The Defiant's weapons came alive. Ancient Alliance cannons, repurposed and rewired by human hands, fired in sequence. The first shots missed as the swarm ship executed its own evasive maneuvers. They're fast, Anna observed. We're faster, Jack said. Emma, is the targeting system online? Emma's fingers flew over her console. Online and adapting. The AI is tracking their movement patterns. The swarm ship came around for another pass, firing a barrage that clipped the Defiant's port side. The ship shuddered. Damage report, Jack called. Minor hull breach on Deck 5, came the reply. Emergency systems responding. No casualties. Mike, I need more power to the weapons, Jack said into the comm. You've got it, Captain, but I can't promise the conduits will hold. The Defiant turned faster than a ship its size should be able to, bringing its main guns to bear just as the swarm ship began another attack run. Fire, Jack ordered. This time, the shots connected. The Defiant's cannons tore into the swarm ship's hull, leaving glowing wounds. But the enemy vessel didn't retreat. Instead, it accelerated directly toward them. They're going to ram us, Anna shouted. Roll ship, present the armored sections, Jack ordered, and fire all remaining weapons. The Defiant rolled, its patchwork hull turning to offer the strongest sections to the oncoming enemy. At the same time, every operational weapon fired. Beams of energy lashed out. Missiles streaked across the impossible. The Alliance military inspector circled the weapons console on the Defiant's bridge. These cannons should not have that kind of output. Mike Torres leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We modified the power relays. Using what? The inspector demanded. Parts from our own systems, mostly. A few things we traded for in the station market. The inspection had been going on for 3 days. After the Defiant's victory over the Swarm Scout, Alliance officials had swarmed the ship, convinced the humans must have stolen classified technology. What they found only confused them more. On the engineering deck, another inspector was questioning Emma about the ship's computer system. You integrated your eye with Alliance software. That violates at least 6 security protocols. Emma didn't look up from her screen. We needed a targeting system that could track swarm movements. Your original system was too slow. This is highly irregular, the inspector muttered, making notes on his tablet. In the conference room, Captain Jack sat across from Admiral Kor and Commander Tal, the captain of the Alliance flagship Invincible. Your ship performed adequately, Tal said. He was tall, even for his species, with dark blue skin and sharp features. But one small scout is not the same as facing the swarm's main fleet, which is why we need to gather intelligence on their fleet movements, Jack said. The scouts' presence this deep in Alliance space suggests they're getting bolder. Admiral Kor's yellow eyes narrowed. Are you proposing another mission? I'm proposing the joint operation, Jack said. The Defiant can penetrate swarm territory, gather intelligence on their main fleet, and return with data that could help protect both Earth and the Alliance. Penetrate swarm territory. Tal laughed. With that patchwork vessel, the moment they detect you, you'll be surrounded and destroyed. They won't detect us, Jack said. Admiral Core leaned forward. Explain. Jack tapped a button on the table. A hologram appeared, showing the Defiant's exterior. We've developed a stealth system. The swarm uses biological sensors that detect energy emissions. We've found a way to mask ours. How? Tal demanded. We repurpose the material you use for waste containment. It absorbs energy rather than reflecting it. Admiral Core and Commander Tal exchanged glances. Cargo shielding, Core said. You turned cargo shielding into a stealth system. Jack nodded. Combined with modified power settings, it should let us observe the swarm fleet without being detected. Should. Tal repeated skeptically. Nothing is certain in war, Commander, Jack said. But we're willing to take the risk. Core was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, the Council will not approve sending the Defiant alone. If your stealth technology works, it could be valuable to the Alliance. You want to send one of your ships with us, Jack guessed. The Invincible will accompany you, Core said. Commander Tal will observe and report on your methods. Jack looked at Tal, whose expression made it clear he was not happy with this assignment. We leave tomorrow, Jack said. 800 hours. The Defiant and the Invincible left Alliance space the next morning. The contrast between the two ships couldn't have been more stark. The Invincible was sleek and beautiful, its hull gleaming silver in the starlight. The Defiant was a patchwork of materials, functional but far from pretty. They're hailing us, Emma reported as they cleared the last Alliance outpost. On screen, Jack ordered. Commander Tal's face appeared. Captain Reed, we are entering potentially hostile territory. The Invincible will take the lead. Your ship will follow at a distance of no less than 10,000 kilometers. Several options, Captain, the AI replied. The electromagnetic pulse that worked on their scouts would be ineffective against their capital ships. However, we have graviton disruptors that could temporarily disable their propulsion systems. That would just make them more desperate, Walker said. We need something more convincing. He turned to Anna. You said this ship was designed to demonstrate truth. What did you mean by that? Anna's expression brightened. The data projection system. It was created to share information across language and cultural barriers. She moved to another control station. We can use it to show the Taurans exactly what the collective did to their worlds in my timeline. Will it work at this distance? Walker asked. If we boost it with the main reactor, yes. She looked at Foster. Engineer, I need full power to the quantum field generator. Foster hesitated only briefly before moving to help. Just tell me what to do. As they worked, Dr. Reed returned to the bridge. Tauran ships are charging weapons, she reported grimly. 2 minutes to their deadline, Atlas added. Walker watched as Anna and Foster frantically prepared the projection system. Will you be ready in time? Almost there, Anna replied, her hands moving quickly across the controls. The Phantom was designed for this, to bridge understanding between species who would otherwise destroy each other. 30 seconds, Atlas warned. Anna looked up, her eyes now blazing with blue light. Ready. Activating quantum field projection now. The ship hummed as energy flowed through its systems. Outside, in the space between the Phantom and the Tauran vessels, light began to gather and form shapes. The projection grew larger until it surrounded all 6 ships in a sphere of light and images. Inside this massive projection, the Taurans could see their own homeworld, not as it was now, but as it would be after the collective invasion. Cities in ruins, their people connected to horrific biomechanical constructs, their individuality erased as they were absorbed into the hive mind. Then the projection shifted, showing humans and Taurans fighting side by side against the collective. At the center of one battle stood an older Tauran who bore a striking resemblance to Commander Vex. His grandson, Anna, whispered to Walker, General Vex of the Allied fleet, who died saving 3 human colonies from assimilation. The projection faded, leaving the ships floating in darkness once more. The bridge was silent as they waited for the Tauran response. Did it work? Walker finally asked. Before Anna could answer, the communication screen activated again. Commander Vex appeared, his expression unreadable to human eyes. Captain Walker, he said slowly, what trickery is this? Not trickery, Commander, Walker replied. A warning from the future. The ship we occupy was sent back in time to prepare us for a war against an enemy that threatens both our species. Vex was silent for a long moment. You claim these images are from our future? Yes, Walker confirmed. A future where the collective, a hive-mind species, nearly destroys both humanity and the Tauran protectorate. And the Tauran in your vision, the one who resembled me. Your grandson, Anna said, stepping forward. In my timeline, he becomes a hero to both our peoples. Vex's eyes narrowed. Prove it. Show me something only my descendant would know. Anna closed her eyes, searching the Phantom's database. The mark on your left forearm. 3 parallel lines representing the Oath of Solitude. Your grandson carries the same mark, but adds a 4th line to honor you after your death defending the Tauran colony on Bellerophon. Vex's expression changed, showing genuine surprise. The Defiant edged closer to the swarm fleet, its stealth systems working at maximum capacity. They were close enough now to see individual ships, each black and sleek like the scout they had destroyed. They're definitely headed for the core worlds, Emma confirmed after several minutes of scanning. At their current speed, they'll reach the outer defenses in less than 2 weeks. Jack was about to order them to pull back when alarms blared across the bridge. We're being scanned, Emma shouted. They've detected us. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. Full power to engines. The Defiant lurched as it broke from its observation position. Behind them, several swarm ships detached from the main fleet and began pursuit. The Invincible, Anna said. They'll detect them too. Jack opened the comm channel. Commander Tal, we've been spotted. Multiple pursuers. Get your ship out of here now. Instead of fleeing, the Invincible moved forward, placing itself between the Defiant and the pursuing swarm ships. Captain Reed. Tal's voice was calm despite the danger. Your vessel carries vital intelligence. The Alliance needs to know about this invasion force. We will cover your retreat. That's suicide, Jack protested. Perhaps, Tal agreed, but necessary. Go, Captain. Warn the Alliance. The Invincible opened fire on the lead swarm ships, its powerful weapons tearing through the first wave. But more came, swarming around the Alliance vessel like insects. Jack watched in horror as the sleek silver ship was surrounded. Its shields flared blue as they absorbed hit after hit. We can't leave them, Anna said. Jack made his decision. All power to engines and weapons. We're going back. The Defiant turned, its makeshift engines pushing to speeds its builders never imagined. It plunged toward the battle, weapons charging. Target the swarm ships closest to the Invincible's engines, Jack ordered. Fire everything we've got. The Defiant unleashed a barrage that caught the swarm ships by surprise. 3 exploded immediately. Others broke off their attack to face this new threat. The Invincible is heavily damaged, Emma reported. Life support failing. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Get me a channel to Tal, Jack ordered. Commander Tal's face appeared on screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Invincible was in chaos. Fires burned at several stations. Officers worked frantically to maintain control of their dying ship. What are you doing, Reed? Tal demanded. Saving your stubborn alien hide, Jack replied. Prepare for emergency evacuation. We'll dock with your port airlock. There's no time. Make time, Jack said. That's an order, Commander. For once, Tal didn't argue. The Defiant limped back to Alliance space with nearly double its normal crew. The rescue operation had been what Commander Tal later described as controlled insanity. The human ship had executed maneuvers that should have torn it apart, dancing between swarm attackers to reach the dying Invincible. They had saved 83 of the Alliance flagship's crew. Commander Tal had been the last to leave his ship, staying until the final moment when Jack himself had crossed the emergency docking tube to drag him to safety. The Invincible had exploded moments later, taking 4 swarm ships with it. Now on the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Tal stood beside Captain Jack as they approached Alliance Station 1. His blue skin was paler than usual, his uniform torn and stained. "The Alliance owes you a debt," Tal said quietly. "My crew owes you their lives." Jack shook his head. "We did what anyone would do." "No," Tal said. "We would not have done the same. The Alliance protocol is clear. The mission comes before the crew." "That's not how humans work," Jack replied. "We're stubborn that way." The station grew larger in the view screen. Dozens of Alliance warships surrounded it, more than Jack had ever seen in one place. "They're preparing for war," Tal observed. "Admiral Kor acted quickly on your warning transmission." "Not quickly enough," Tal said grimly. "The swarm will reach our outer defenses in 10 days. We have never faced a force this large." The Defiant docked amid unusual fanfare. A full honor guard waited at the airlock. Admiral Kor stood at its head. As Jack, Anna, and Tal stepped through, the Alliance soldiers snapped to attention. Admiral Kor stepped forward and, to Jack's surprise, bowed deeply. "Captain Reed," he said formally. "The Alliance Council extends its gratitude for the safe return of Commander Tal and his crew. Your bravery will be recorded in our histories." Jack returned the bow. "Thank you, Admiral. But we bring grave news." "Yes," Kor nodded. "The Council is assembled and waiting for your report." The Council chamber was filled to capacity. All 7 Council members were present, along with military leaders from every Alliance world. The mood was tense. Jack stood before them, flanked by Anna and Commander Tal. Behind them, on a large screen, Emma displayed the sensor data they had gathered. "The swarm fleet numbers over 300 ships," Jack explained. "Their heading and speed suggest they plan to attack the core worlds directly, bypassing the outer colonies." "Why?" asked a counselor with green skin. "They have always expanded gradually, consuming world after world.